Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. Here today to talk about a huge new change to Master Duel. In my opinion, this might just be the most positive and massive change to the Forbidden Limited list in the entirety of Master Duel's history. And it's pretty easy to see right off the bat why I and a lot of other people think this is the case. Before we start talking about this ban list, I really quick want to cut off at the pass a comment I've already been seeing a lot and I know is going to be in the comment section of this video a lot. But where Maxi? Maxi bad. Game bad until Maxi banned. Look, I get it. Everybody gets it. We literally all get it. But just because Maxi isn't here yet, hopefully, and I will talk about this a little bit more actually in relation to at least one of these hits, but I don't think that, you know, that precludes us who want to celebrate these positive changes, right? Like, I use the phrase determined to be miserable quite a bit, sometimes unfairly, but I do think that people who see these kinds of changes, a lot of which, I would dare say almost all of which are extremely positive and massive, and still choose to focus on the negative exclusively. And not only that, but also like shame or shut down people who are happy because of the negative factors they see. I would qualify that as somebody who's determined to be miserable. So setting those kinds of people aside, I think that there is a ton to celebrate here. This is a massive list. I'm gonna go over the full scope of it here. Starting right at the top with Apollousa being forbidden. I mean, this is just massive, right? This card has been in the game since the start of Master Duel, and it has been very prevalent since the start of Master Duel. If I remember right, even in my first ever deck profile and combo guide for Tri-Brigade Zodiac, we were ending on Apollousa, right? So definitely a card that a lot of people are not sad to see go, and I'm honestly in that bunch there. I think one of the reasons that I'm really glad to see Apollousa go is something that I've realized playing in this meta in particular, with Mitsurugi and Fiendsmith being so prevalent as engines. I keep having the thought as I'm deck building and also playing my games that there are a ton of cool things that these engines can go into as far as extra deck monsters, but Apollousa tends to be the best thing to go into, and it's pretty easy to see why with multiple monster negates, right? So not only does this severely tone down the power level of pretty much every meta relevant deck right now, but also will offer those engines a lot more room to breathe as far as like other options they can look at, right? Of the meta decks that are using Apollousa, which to be fair is almost all of them, I think Maliss is actually going to feel this hurt, or feel this hit rather, and it's going to hurt the most for them, right? Because the way I'm looking at it, like Mitsurugi, it's still really easy to pivot into a negate mid-combo with the number 90 Galaxy Eyes card with 2 level 8s, right? And as far as Maliss goes, there is a line where they can make the Ignister rank 5 that has an Omni negate. They can make that mid-combo, but it requires you not only main decking TB11, but also playing your combo line in a sort of weird way, and I think you also still have to open Dormouse to even be able to do that. So yeah, I think this is mostly a blow to, I mean, I say mostly a blow to Maliss, it's a blow to every single engine deck that was using Apollousa, which was a lot of them. But you know, we all have other options that we can explore within these decks, and I am very glad to be able to have the ability to explore those options. I don't think that I am in the minority in saying that I am very glad to no longer be seeing Apollousa on end boards, or in the middle of an opponent's combo as well. Now, there's something to know about alt art Apollousa, and it's explained, you know, I'll show the text here in a little bit. Actually, you know what, why don't we just scroll down and I'll show you that right now. So, yeah, here we go. Regarding application of the alternate art cards for the Forbidden Limited list, I'll go ahead and give you a summarization here. The idea is that once Apollousa, the alt art version, is banned, you will not only get just a dust refund, you'll get an exchange ticket. They talk about that here. And the exchange ticket can either be used to get more UR dust or another alt art card, which I think is a fantastic way for them to go about banning these alternate art cards, right? I'm somebody who owns an alternate art Apollousa. I've been using it obviously since I pulled it. And I'm glad that I can exchange that for, I'm going to exchange it for an alternate art tuning, because I own 2 copies and I would love to have a playset. But yeah, I'm just really grateful for that opportunity. So huge positive change on not only the ban list and the meta, but also as a way of recouping those of us who have these alternate art cards. That alone, I think, is a pretty massive W for Konami here. I'm not an exclusive Konami glazer. In fact, like pretty much everybody, I criticize them a lot. Co-money in a lot of ways is not an unfair thing to say, but I'm not above, like, you know, showing them props when they do deserve. And I think that this was overall a very great positive change. But there are others here. Evil Swarm Ouroboros going to 0. So the hand looping will finally cease, or hand ripping, I should say. I don't know if Ouroboros could ever rip all 5 cards from an opponent's hand, but obviously Riseal decks can not only make Evil Swarm Ouroboros, but then it could be revived with, you know, plug-in or certain other cards in order to keep discarding cards, because it is a quote-unquote soft once per turn, meaning it's actually once per copy on the field per turn. So yeah, definitely not sad to see this go, for sure. I'm not even sad that I crafted a copy of Evil Swarm Ouroboros, even if I only summoned it like maybe a literal handful of times, like 4 or 5. You know, I still get their UR dust back, so that is perfectly fine with me. That's a recurring trend. You're going to see it on this ban list a lot. It's something we've actually seen quite a bit from Konami within the last year that I've noticed. A lot of these meta decks are, yeah, mostly comprised of UR cards, which isn't ideal, but at the very least, Konami is not shy about hitting UR cards and recouping that dust, allowing players who are free to play to more easily pivot from one meta deck to another when they get hit, which I think is nice. But yeah, Ouroboros, I'm not sad to see go. I don't think anybody is. It doesn't keep Riseal from being one of the best decks in the format. It just means they don't hand rip anymore, which again, I think pretty much all of us are grateful for. We're also seeing the ban of Anti-Spell Fragrance. Definitely not sad to see various Floodgate cards go. Not really much more to say about that. But also, speaking of cards that are sort of floodgating people and getting banned, Artifact Molnir. So this is something that the Master Duel ban list does a lot. Well, not a ton, but more recently I've noticed it. And that's the willingness to ban cards before they become huge problems, right? We saw that with Paradise Smasher, which was a problem in Memento, don't get me wrong, but obviously would have been much worse if it had stayed legal through the release of K9. Now here, Artifact Molnir was used, I believe, in some, was it Gem Knight strategies? There was some deck in the Duel Cup that I think Master Duel, as well as, of course, in Paper Play, was using the rank 5 to put Molnir on the opponent's board. But either way, the willingness to get rid of these cards before they become huge problems, I think, is a huge W from Konami. Now, I will always be of the opinion, maybe not always, I don't like to, sort of pigeonhole my opinion, for the rest of time or anything like that, but I tend to be in favor of hitting the cards that are putting these sort of self-intended floodgate locks onto the opponent's board, as opposed to hitting the locks themselves. Like Sanctifier versus Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. I was more in favor of banning the Albion Sanctifier. So here, in my opinion, it really should have been the rank 5, that is special summoning cards, your cards to the opponent's field, that was banned. But as long as the issue is addressed, I think that's the most important part. And I think whether it's these self-locking cards or the graveyard, cheating onto your opponent's field cards to get hit is more of a matter of opinion. I have my opinion, but either way, I'm really glad the problem is being addressed. So huge W's from the bans alone, but there's more than just these 5 cards that are getting banned. We're also seeing 4 extremely significant limits here. To the Riseal deck, both Sword Riseal and X Riseal are getting limited, which is going to cut the number of Riseal starters down by 3 total copies, which is a pretty massive hit, and not one that is undeserved. These cards are also limited in Paper Play as well. In the OCG, I know, and I think TCG as well. I tend to be a little bit more familiar with OCG's ban list because it tends to more closely reflect Master Duels, and I don't play TCG at all. But yeah, I don't think anybody's really complaining about these hits. Riseal, obviously an extremely powerful deck, one of the most prevalent decks in the meta, and these limits are definitely not going to kill Riseal by any means. Pure Riseal gets a lot less consistent, to be sure. However, Riseal mostly is thriving on its variants right now, like Mitsurugi, as well as other variants like there's Magistus as well. And once the new Onomatopoeia support and Eclipse Twins come into Master Duel, that will give Riseal a further power boost. So definitely do not count this deck out. But even before this new support comes in, again, Riseal and its variants I think will still definitely be tier 1 decks. But they've been so strong in their entirety in the meta, it's not hard to see why they're getting limited here. Next up, I actually want to talk about Chessy Cat real quick, because Maliss alongside Riseal has been one of the more recent tier 1 decks that have really power creeped the meta. And Maliss already suffered 3 huge consistency limits and is now receiving a limit in the form of Chessy Cat, which I think is an interesting hit. It is true that a lot more often than usual now, Maliss is beginning their turn with normal summon Chessy Cat. So stopping that avenue of play is pretty good. Maliss, of course, also gets to draw multiple cards off of this, extend their plays at the same time. It's one of the main reasons why they're able to end on so many hand traps in their hand while also still having their full combo on board. And I honestly thought they were going to limit Allure of Darkness as the sort of extender hit to curb Maliss, but I like limiting Chessy Cat a lot more. Now, most people only play 2 Chessy Cat anyway, and some people choose to only play 1, but either way, I think hitting the number of Maliss names overall is definitely not a bad decision. I could see a world where Maliss is still a little bit too powerful, and maybe then we can talk about limiting Allure of Darkness, or maybe another hit, possibly looking at banning a card, maybe, but either way, I think this is a good direction to go into. Alright, Call by the Grave. Now, this is like, this and one other hit are, I think, overall positive, but I am slightly apprehensive about. As I touched on earlier in this video, Maxi is not getting banned. And although I would like to see it get banned, you know, I don't think that that fact alone negates how effective this list is. I'm a little bit apprehensive of Call by the Grave going to 1 while Maxi is still around, because I really do think that it's important to have counters to arguably the strongest card in the entire game. Now, I know a lot of people really want to see Call by get banned altogether, as well as cards like Cross-Out Designator and Triple Tactics Talent as well. The logic being that turn 1 going first is too strong in Yu-Gi-Oh! And hand traps should be able to counter that. I personally don't mind their existing counters to hand traps. I actually think Triple Tactics Talent is kind of the perfect example, because it doesn't outright negate the hand trap that's stopping your plays, but it gives you some amount of interactability with your opponent when they do that. Now, granted, Triple Tac could be argued that it's too strong in what it does, even if it doesn't negate the hand trap, but I'm personally not a huge fan of the idea of there being no counterplay to hand traps whatsoever. By the same token that going first is too strong when uninterrupted, I don't think the going first player should automatically have to lose if they get hit with a hand trap, right? The way that a lot of people talk about them wanting 1-for-1 hand traps like Imperm, Veiler, and Ash Blossom to be more impactful almost reads to me like they want one of these alone to be enough to stop the opponent's turn 1. And I think a meta where that is true and there's no cards like Call by to counter that, I don't think that's particularly skillful, interactive, or fun. So I think there is a line to walk. That said, I don't disagree that Call by is really strong, arguably too strong. And if Maxi were to get banned, I think I'd be fine with this card getting banned. But while Maxi is still around, I'm a little apprehensive about it getting hit. Maybe this means Konami is willing to possibly ban Maxi in the future, but either way, I don't think that that takes away from how good hits like Apollousa ban, Riseal limits, and so on and so forth are. And maybe Call by limit will be fine. I think Call by limit in a vacuum is not bad at all. I just worry a little bit with Maxi. And the same is true with Droll Lock Bird being semi-limited. This card is not just a hand trap used to counter decks, it is also a counter to Maxi as well. There are a lot of decks, like Sprite in particular is the first one off the top of my head because it's the one I play the most, but Mathmech is another one I play a lot that I know can play through Droll a lot of the time. A lot of these rogue decks are relying on Droll Lock Bird to be able to counter Maxi. That said, you could also make the argument that Droll Lock Bird counters a lot of rogue decks, but it most notably in this meta is countering Mitsurugi, which is far from a meta, or far from a rogue deck. It is very much in the meta. So, again, in a vacuum, I think Droll Lock Bird losing a copy of that is not a bad thing. Given that Maxi is still legal in the current state of the meta, I'm a little apprehensive about hitting it now. But Maybe this will just mean that Maxi hits later, who knows? Again, in a vacuum, I think this is a good thing, but overall, we'll just have to see how things play out. I was really surprised to see, I think this is the first time, I think, I could very easily be mistaken here, and please feel free to correct me in the comments if I am mistaken. I think this is the first time Droll Lock Bird has been hit to any degree in any format. And the willingness of Master Duel to experiment, if that is true, has always been, I think, one of its greatest strengths. So I'm really eager to see where this experimentation with hitting hand traps goes. I really don't think that the limitations of staples like Callby and Droll were on anyone's bingo sheet for the upcoming ban list, but I am not at all sad to see that that's an option. And then finally, for cards going to 3, the Labyrinth furniture is getting unlimited, which I've discussed even in a recent video, definitely is completely fine and should have happened a little while ago. But yeah, wild ban list that we've got here. Absolutely insane. I'm glad to see it. I think it's a huge positive change. Again, the only things I'm a little bit apprehensive about are Callby and Droll with Maxi being legal. But overall, I think this is the huge ban list that a lot of people wanted to see really shake up Master Duel for the better. And I think that's going to be true. So I'm really optimistic about it. And I understand that if people are pessimistic about Maxi not being here, I understand that. It is an understandable emotion to have. And it's not even one that I disagree with. It's one that I also share. Again, what I take issue with, as I discussed at the beginning of the video, is people who will naysay anybody who wants to speak about these changes in any way other than saying that Master Duel is awful and evil and Maxi needs to get banned. That's always what I've had the issue with that sort of crowd, and it's something that I've experienced, you know, on social media, and not just here on YouTube, but on other platforms. You know, me saying that, like, yes, Master Duel has its problems, but can we talk about some of these other things as far as strategy or things that are happening within it positively? No, there is a very vocal audience out there that will very aggressively try to shut that kind of talk down, which I think is just ridiculous. And that's really more what I was kind of going after at the beginning there. So, in any case, while Maxi does still need to get banned, this ban list was hugely positive for the game, and I think will be hopefully the sign of a lot more positive things to come. I really think Master Duel is one of Yu-Gi-Oh's stronger formats, and this willingness to experiment and also shake things up is a lot of the reason. And not only just that, but also hit future problems before they become problems. I think this really showcases in a lot of ways why I feel so positively about Master Duel's ban list, especially right now. But anyway, that's all I got for you. Those are my thoughts and feelings about this ban list. You know, even if you do want to naysay the game as a whole for Maxi still being legal, I still like hearing other people's opinions in the comments below. I've never been shy about allowing this to be an open platform, you know, where those opinions can be voiced. Now, obviously, if we're being hateful, that's another thing. But yeah, feel free to agree or disagree, whatever you think in the comments below. But that's going to do it for now. So let us move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which, by the way, is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.